I've been using Monarch for years to manage my budget, my goals, and just keep an eye on my overall financial health. Something I've always missed has been the ability to plan into the far future and forecast for things like retirement or buying my first house or having the confidence to know that if I do retire early, that it's going to be a retirement that I love instead of just making ends meet. There are a bunch of forecasting tools out there and I've tried a bunch of them, but they're either really confusing to set up or they don't sync with my accounts, so they're out of date. Monarch's approach is different. We wanted to build something that was fast and easy to set up so that you could play with your numbers and build intuition and confidence in your plan. My name is Wells and I'm a product designer here, and I wanted to share a walkthrough end to end getting set up with forecasting for the first time. So first it's just going to ask us to confirm our information that's already in Monarch. So I've got these two members of my household. These are the assumptions about my income and expenses and account balances. So if anything looks off here, I would recommend going to your accounts page and just making sure all of your accounts are included. And you can also choose who is included in the plan, so I could turn on or off different people if I wanted to. Next, we do income, and specifically this is the amount that you take home after taxes and retirement contributions and all that stuff is pulled out. You can leave these numbers as is. This is just an average over your last 12 months. I'm just going to type in the numbers as I know them. So that's 120, and this one should be 70. If you only have one source of income, you can of course remove one of them, or if you have other jobs, you can add those as well. Next, we're going to choose which accounts are included in the plan. I'm probably just going to keep the defaults. So it includes all of my cash accounts, my investments, the loans that I'm paying off, and I'm going to leave my credit cards turned off because I pay my balance in full every month for all of my cards. So I don't want to double count my expenses. And then for my car and my home, I'm going to also leave those turned off as well because I don't plan to sell those in retirement. So I don't want to pull my living expenses from home equity or anything like that. Your situation might be different, so feel free to change settings around as you need. Next, I want to set up my retirement contributions to my 401k. I am going to set this to 20,000, and that is the total of my contributions and any employer match for a given year. We also calculate a rough estimate of how we expect contributions to grow over time as the government raises limits automatically. For contributions that I make to my IRA or my brokerage account, those are things that I can configure later, and I'll show you how to do that. Next is going to ask you about your retirement age. At least in my case, the whole reason I'm here is because this is a number that I don't know and I want to figure it out. So I'm going to leave it as the default for now, and I can change it later on. And that's it. Rather than ask you a whole bunch of information up front and fill out a ton of forms before you can even look at the product, we wanted to make the onboarding really short so that you can just get in and just start playing with it right away. You can see that we have given you a little bit of a guide on where to go next. So we're going to add some life events. We can play with the chart, and I'll show you how to do that. And then there's also a bunch of assumptions that we can play with too. This is the main forecasting screen, and you can see that it's split into two sections. You've got this chart up here at the top and a table down at the bottom, and the two are connected. You can see how your net worth changes over time, and it also plots things like these events for retirement and Social Security are created by default. So I've got my wedding goal here and our baby fund, and it'll also show you when debts are paid off. So I have a home equity loan here and a mortgage that gets paid off in 2054. Down here at the bottom, you can actually see all of the numbers that go into this calculation. So you can drill in and really explore where all of your numbers are coming from. If I wanted to look at my IRA, for example, I could see this account value changing over time. And if I wanted to know how these numbers are being calculated, I can just look one step deeper and I can see that there's a starting balance here. And then it also is applying this growth rate of 7%, which is just an industry benchmark. If I wanted to change that, I could just click here and it opens up this side panel where I can play with the growth rate number. I can slide it up or down. I can also type any number that I want into this box too. This is also where I would configure the contributions that I make into my IRA every year. So I can just click edit, change this to, let's just say 7,000. And I'll do that for the other one as well. And now you can see there's an additional line here for deposits, and it's showing you how that is changing over time. We calculate automatically how these numbers might grow with inflation. You can configure these kinds of settings on any account just by clicking the little gear icon. It'll show you your interest rate, contribution amounts. You can also change settings like your inflation rate and income by going to this gear up in the top corner to edit your forecast-wide assumptions. So I can add, remove, or edit income sources, and I can also change my inflation rate across the app. So now that we have our basic settings dialed in, let's create some new events because I don't actually think that I'm going to die with $40 million, and I also don't want to retire when I'm 65. So let's turn this into my forecast. First, I want to go and add a new event. I know that I'm planning on having a kid, so I'm going to choose that one first. It opens up this panel and it automatically creates an event for me. And I can change the name, or I can change the color if I want to. I could change the year just by choosing from this dropdown, or I can just come right up to the chart here and I can just pick it up and I can drag it side to side. I have this baby fund that we're hoping to finish by 2027. So I'm just going to move this to happen in that same year. Over on the side here, I've got some other things that I can play with. Number of years that I plan on supporting that child. So I'm just going to change this to 18. And these yearly child expenses are just things like groceries, school, toys, basically all of the costs required to add a person to your household. Take note that these numbers and any number that you type in for creating an event is in today's dollars. So even if this event were happening far into the future, I would still type in the numbers using today's dollars rather than trying to do mental math and figure out what those values might be in the future. Next, I want to play with my retirement date because that's the thing I'm really excited to figure out. So I'll click into this event and it gives me some settings here. So I can change the year. I can also change how much I expect my living expenses to change in retirement. Some people may plan to spend less, others may plan to spend more. I think that my expenses will probably end up being about the same, if not maybe a little bit more. So maybe I'll just adjust this up by a small amount. I also want to plan for things like healthcare. I might adjust this also to be maybe a little bit more conservative than the default. So I'll just change this to 7,500. It's cool that it also shows me what these numbers would actually equate to in the year that it's going to happen. So $7,500 of yearly medical expenses in today's dollars actually looks like $18,000 by the time I retire in 2056. By default, it assumes that your income will be reduced by 100%. But if you take a lighter schedule, or maybe you plan to do some hobby work or work on the side, you can change this to a different amount so that you still have a little bit of income in retirement. But next, I really want to try to figure out if I can retire any sooner than 65. So I'm going to pick up the event here, and I'm just going to drag it over to the side. And I want to do the same for my spouse because ideally we could maybe retire around the same time. If I put it here at 54, what's happening now is the net worth projection is going negative before the end of our plan. It means that this wouldn't work. So it's nice that I can drag them side to side and immediately see it change in real time so that I can really get a feel for how much a year makes a difference. Can we retire at 55? It looks like a retirement age of 55 and a net worth of just about 5 million is our magic number. And that is basically when we can safely retire. Now I can start to really play with different ideas. Like what would happen if we decided to build an addition on our house? So I can just add a new event. I'll do an expense. And let's just say it's going to be a $100,000 addition. How would that affect things? If I try to do that maybe within the next couple of years, it looks like that moves our end of plan a pretty decent amount. So I guess would I have to retire later? Yeah. Okay, so it looks like if I retire 1 year later, it gives me a lot of flexibility to be able to do things like building an addition. Maybe I do want to do this and maybe I don't. I can just turn this off and now it's not included in the plan, but I didn't delete it. So it means that I can very easily sort of compare just by turning this event on and off. And this has been awesome for me and my partner to sit down and really take a critical look at our budget and our goals and try to figure out, can we do these expensive things or should we be saving more? How often should we be taking our kids on vacation? Like those kinds of things. I've really been enjoying the ability to just play with things and try different possibilities without feeling like I'm locked into a single plan. The last thing I want to show you is just how to explore these numbers down here at the bottom. You can see how all of your accounts grow over time. And if you go out to dates past retirement, you can also see how the money is leaving your accounts. For example, it looks like my checking account is the first to go. And if I go in here, I can see my withdrawal order. And if I click into this, I can see the order that money is taken out once I no longer have an income. If I wanted to move these around, like maybe I wanted to take money out of my brokerage account first, I could just drag that up to the top and you could see it recalculates it in real time. But you might see this bucket up here at the top called extra savings. And what is that? Extra savings is the way that forecasting accounts for years where you earn more than you spend. Because we can't automatically know where you want to direct that money, maybe you want to to invest it. Maybe you want to put it into your emergency fund, or maybe you plan to spend a portion of it. We put that all into a bucket automatically for you called extra savings. And you can see that down here at the bottom. It behaves like any other account. It has a starting balance, it has a growth rate applied to it, and you can also see the withdrawals coming out of it. If I go into the settings, I have this option to split my extra savings. It lets me take any money that I'm expected to earn in excess of my expenses and allocate it towards things like my IRAs or my emergency fund or even extra spending. So you can see here, it's already accounting for those IRA contributions that I plan to make. Maybe I also want to take a portion of that, maybe 10%, and put that in my checking account. Maybe the rest of it I just want to send to my brokerage account. So if I have anything left over, I just invest it. We also have the option to show an example at the top here to make it a little bit easier to understand how the money is moving around. You can see that it comes out of extra savings in sequential order. So it starts with your IRAs here. It deducts the 7,000. It takes money out of your checking accounts, and then everything else gets sent to your brokerage. And you can see down here at the bottom, the remainder for extra savings is 0, which means that now I'm allocating every dollar. I don't have anything left over that's just sort of straggling. And that's kind of it. I now have a baseline that I can use for exploring different possibilities and planning for retirement more intentionally than just hoping that I can retire before I'm 65. We've got an awesome help center with guides on how to do everything that I showed you today, plus anything that we didn't have time for. And it also covers all of the math and industry guidance behind the default assumptions that we're using. Hopefully that gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about forecasting and help you build your own forecast that you can feel confident and excited about. Happy forecasting.